Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. So excited today. I've got actor, producer Frank Monteleone with me. Welcome, Frank.
Thanks.
How bad did I mess up your last name?
It's pretty good. You had to come rolling hills in there.
That's it. Well, yeah, I got it. I was like, I got to make sure I hit it.
Yeah. No, I know that it's not an easy one.
No, but I'm jealous of it because, like, if I've always thought I need a longer last name. Wall's too short.
Yeah.
And my grandfather didn't help because it used to be Walls, and he changed it to Wall. I'm like, why'd you take the letter away? We could have used that.
I like the 2-syllable. Just hit them. Just you got it. The long one gets people stuttering. They get intimidated by it.
Yeah. My college roommate is a police sergeant on Bourbon Street. So we were, and we were in New Orleans to visit him on Halloween years ago, me and my wife. One of his favorite places to eat is at your family's hotel.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So he took us to there.
Yeah.
Because local. So he kind of knows that. So he took us to all over the place.
Right.
But it was awesome. Really.
Oh, the Carousel Bar is for whatever reason, it's the local spot, and everyone loves going there. And I feel like,
well, that's what he said. He's like, this is where everybody goes.
Yeah, this is the spot. But man, he's got some big job. Bourbon Street, looking after that place.
I laugh because I grew up with him, and he was the wimpiest kid, and just little, just a little chubby kid, just no threat to anybody. And then at some point, he shot up there. He's like 6'7" now and about 350 pounds, and it's all muscle.
Wow.
He's same as me. We're in our 50s, but you wouldn't know it with him. And so I give him a hard time, because he looks intimidating. But I'm like, I remember you, buddy.
That's right. Those are the guys you don't want to forget. They're sitting there by themselves, but then all of a sudden they can take you out.
Yeah. You don't want to mess with him. He's the first guy that big that I've actually seen being able to do like the karate kicks and stuff. You know, he
Oh,
took
wow.
karate. He can get his leg up there. I'm like, oh man. All right, I
Yeah,
wouldn't mess with
that's
you now,
scary,
but yeah. But you
right?
know, if you're going to be a police sergeant on Bourbon Street, maybe you need to be that size.
Yeah, you got to be able to hold it down. That's for sure. That place gets raucous, you know.
It
It's
was worth it to be there on Halloween, but I couldn't handle that too
I
often
was gonna
for too
say, out of
long.
all the days you picked, like
No.
that just gets
Well, we
absolutely
actually
crazy.
went for a couple of reasons. We went to see him, but my wife works for Live Nation, and we were going down for the Voodoo Festival.
Oh, right,
And
yeah.
then, you know, we I think it was a Friday that was Halloween, so we were out pretty late. And then so Saturday when we were supposed to be going to the festival, we're like, let's just skip it today. We'll go tomorrow. And then it just poured the rain on Sunday, so we didn't even go. We never even went to
Oh
the festival.
man.
Still had a
Oh,
blast.
I think I actually remember that year. I remember when it like poured
Oh
down.
yeah.
It was miserable. Yeah.
Yeah. You do not want to be at a festival in a field when it's pouring the rain.
Right? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I've
that
done that
doesn't
many
sound fun.
times. Jazz Fest, you're standing in the tent, lightning starts striking,
Yeah,
you
and
start
it's not
saying your
like you can get
prayers.
away quickly. You know, there's a
Right.
100,000 people there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
how did how did you avoid going into the restaurant business or the hotel business? I guess.
Well, it's funny. We still kind of are in it. Our
Yeah,
family hotel, it's still family owned and run. And so we still keep it in the family. 5 generations, been there since
I
1886.
thought it'd been like pre 1900 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
kind of crazy. I mean, we're one of the last few standing family owned and operated
Well, and you
hotels.
can't ever get rid of it now. It's been too
Right,
long.
you got it. Yeah. Every time that question comes up, I guess, we got to stick with
Yeah,
it.
you got to hang in there because there's not many of those left.
Yeah. And you know what it's like. I mean, working with your family, I loved hearing you and your son. It's like there's something about it that just keeps the bond a little tighter. And it's Italian. My great grandfather was Italian.
Yeah.
There's this like heritage of just keeping it in the family. And I think, yeah, we've always just kept it there and prided ourselves on just making a
Something
great.
special working with family. That's for sure. And yeah, as much as I love doing the interviews, my favorite episodes on the podcast are when it's just me and my son, just talking nerdy.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
fun. Yeah.
That's why you did
So
it.
Frank, let's talk about you a little bit. So you grew up with this hotel family. Why did you want to become an actor?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I was one of those guys that I always think it's cool when someone says, well, I just, later in life they found their way into it or they figured it out. I was one of those little small tykes that just decided really early on. I knew I loved movies. I knew I wanted to be an actor. I think I might have been 4 or 5 sitting there daydreaming about being an actor. And I just thought it was so cool. You could do every different profession.
Yeah.
This is how I worked it out when I was a kid. I was like, you can play football, you can be the doctor, you can, be the stockbroker, you can save the day. You can do all these things, but I loved movies, and it was my way of escaping. And so I decided pretty early on that's what I was going to do.
I mean, that's pretty great. It's rare to know that early. We think we know when we're younger, but usually it changes as we get older.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and I remember being a kid and starting to pride myself because I'd have all the adults tell you it's lucky you know what you want to do, and I just ended up sticking with it,
Yeah.
again and again. And but you're right, and it still molds. I think that's what's so cool about this day and age, where you got actors are doing multiple things, and you find your way all through the crafting of storytelling, and it can just be so many different ways now
Yeah.
that it wasn't like that in the beginning, for me. I say beginning for myself, but it's changed along the way.
Yeah, it's pretty great. We my son and I, we loved you on Cloak and Dagger. You know, we're
Oh,
comic book guys, so
yeah.
love seeing you. And like you fit in a Marvel show.
That's news to my ears. I love that. I love anything action and just coming at it from a different standpoint of, just that fun. I mean, that to me was a dream come true. Again, because I was so young, I dreamed of the Spider-Man, the Marvel world. Now it's this universe, right?
Yeah.
I remember when it was just the first one was getting made and it was like, is it going to look real? And now, look at it's now. It's like it's a whole
I
world,
know.
right?
Like growing up, I never would have imagined that we'd have all that stuff I was reading in the comic books would actually be on screen at some point and done well.
Right, right. It's just a whole nother
Yeah.
world. I love it, and yeah, that was a real big moment for me just to be like, oh, to sign the NDAs and be like, you're entering into Marvel
Yeah, you're
Universe.
in now.
Right, right,
You never know. They may reach back and pull you back into something else.
right. Yeah, any which way might be a different way, different world. Who knows? Metaverse.
Yeah. I mean, Cloak and Dagger, they got their start in Spider-Man comic. And I was always kind of fans of theirs, but I never expected to see a TV show made out of them because they were kind of smaller characters. But that's
Yeah.
kind of Marvel's thing. They did the big stars, and now they're introducing these ones that maybe most people haven't heard of.
Right, right. I always love that. That to me is always what's fun. Like I grew up watching the cameo roles, right? Like
Yeah.
the roles like we always talk about like anybody can be the hero. Like when we're
Yeah.
looking at stories, it can be anyone, and that's what's so cool. And you sit there and you look. I remember working with a guy who was like in the Spider-Man, and it was one of the first ones, and I was like, I know your character becomes the Lizard. Like do you think they're are you gonna be the guy? And like he's like, I hope they end up, because it could be any world could just open up and then you end up in a whole nother
Yeah.
spot. And I love that.
So he was playing Kurt Connor, I guess.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
You know it good. Yeah.
well, I own comic book stores. That's how I put myself through college. So I did that up
Wow.
until 96. Marvel went bankrupt and I was like, it's over. I'm
Wow.
out. And then of course, they came back stronger than ever. And
Yeah.
I always missed, I closed the store before Brett was even born. So he didn't get any of that. And I always felt bad that I didn't
Oh,
hang on to it. So this podcast was our way of trying to enjoy, get some of that comic book feeling, another way. So that
that
was
is
that
so
was
cool.
the purpose behind the podcast. And then it just grew from there.
See, I love origin stories like that. Like what's so cool. I mean, literally, when you bring any up Marvel, it's like the character that I was, casting with that. There was different scripts. We get 4 different scripts, and it can go
Really?
any which way, and where they're poisoned, and the gas, and you're always told because of like the fact that like which way does it go, because the
Right.
comic books. There's so many of them. There's such a different world that a lot of them never see the screen, like you said
Yeah.
characters, and that's so cool that you have that history, and then look at it from your podcast. I loved it when you said the strike, it's like if you need stuff, you want to just come through it all. It's like we have 5 years of just, and it's true, there's just so much information and different
Yeah.
worlds you get to dive into with each person.
I know. And I love that. I love it. And I love the fact that, Marvel and DC, they're mining stories from the 70s, 80s, 90s, which is exactly when I was, doing that stuff. So yeah,
Right.
that stuff I know really well. The stuff that's come later, I'm kind of hit and miss on, but that stuff
Yeah.
where, which is most of the MCU now and DC as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty familiar to me. Although Brett will tell you that the comic book writing back then was terrible, and I'm not sure he's wrong because
Really?
it was that let me describe every single thing that we're doing. It was very the Batman kapow that it
Yeah.
was a little over the top, but at the time
Gotcha.
I loved
I
it.
would have guessed the opposite.
I know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would have guessed like it was like started off real original and better storytelling and kind of,
I know.
yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
he's right. I mean, I thought the stories were pretty compelling. But as I got older, I was like, okay, maybe the writing's not as good as I remember, but didn't change how I felt about it.
right, right.
I actually think the comic book writers today probably stronger as far as the writing aspects, but I think they struggle to recapture the magic that we had back in the 70s and 80s when there wasn't a whole lot of competition entertainment wise.
Right.
Nowadays there's so many other ways that kids can be entertained that, they don't read comics like they used to.
Yeah. Well, we used to look at it as, you follow the writers. The writers are what, and so now comic books have that highlight, that golden age. So
Yeah,
they're capturing the writers that they never would have gotten in
that's
the
right.
70s. Those writers were in the movies and books and novels. And so like you watch how the writers move, they're who we follow. So
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, probably why they've really grown
Yeah, I
so
think it is.
yeah.
I think it is. I do kind of miss the conventions back then because it was all about the writers and artists. There was
Right.
no Hollywood aspect to it. And it's probably better now because it's much more inclusive and it's so much bigger. But I do kind of miss that because those writers and artists, they're still at the conventions, but they're kind of pushed to the side. They're not the main attraction anymore.
Right. Well, it's turned into a festival. It's
It
like,
is. Yeah.
It's like the music festival, right? It's like, it's not the writers of the songs. It's the
Have
rock show.
have they invited you to a convention yet?
I have not. No,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I mean, you're technically in Marvel. That's
Yeah.
enough. That's all you need.
That's the invitation to continue in the world, right?
My mother, because I always play the game. When I have somebody on the podcast, I go around to the family. I'm like, "What have you seen them in?" Most of the time, they'll be nothing. At least on my parents' side. My mother saw you on Bull. Said
she
you
did.
were really good.
I love that. But played a bad guy. It sticks around.
Yeah, she remembered. Like I showed, she knew like right off. I was like, "Hey, that's pretty good."
That is pretty good. That is a well-watched show. She's not the first.
No, she loves that show.
Yeah, that show's a good one.
It is. It is a good show, and I've never sat and just watched it straight through. I've seen episodes here and there, and I've liked them, but for whatever reason, just never sat. But she does. That's one of her. She's still the one that she's watching when it airs,
right,
on a network. She's not.
You gotta respect that, right?
Yeah, she just she'll tell you, "Oh, I got to go. One of my show's coming on." She's not going to record it or anything. She's watching it when it's on.
I miss life like that.
I do too.
Buffy's on at 8. You got.
If you missed it, you had to wait for summer reruns.
Right, it was the worst. I love that. Those weekly specials, and you had to be there, man. And you were setting that recorder. Or how bad when you did record them and then it got taped over or something? That was the worst.
Miserable. Or something went wrong. You screwed up the recording or something, and it was kind of crushing back then.
Right, you could be 5 minutes. It didn't start right on time. It's like,
that was the worst too. Or if like a ball game ran long or something.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would just push back the start time, which would cut the ending.
Yeah. And you would have the ending.
You would know the ending.
Yeah.
And you couldn't go online to look it up.
Yeah. I love how we love that. Like, we love that inconvenience. Like, if we could just get that inconvenience back.
I miss that. I remember like when Fox first started, our local Fox station, the signal was too strong. Like it was overly, so every person every image on the show was doubled because it was coming in so strong. And I watched, at that time, they didn't have a lot of programming, but they had the Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation. I love that show. And so I'm watching it, and I was still recording it to watch it again, even though there was 2 of every person.
Right.
And it didn't bother me that much. I was like, yeah, okay. I'm fine. As long as I can hear it, I'm good. But now if it was like that today, nobody'd even watch it.
Right? It'd be like that's the one thing they teach you is like, you'll put up with anything visually wrong, but if it's wrong in the audio, it's over.
You're done.
You're done.
Yeah, because you can, as long as you can see enough to kind of know what's going on, you just need the audio. But if you can't hear it and you can see it, doesn't matter.
You'll put up with it for some reason. Visually, you'll put up with it. Anything audio,
I know.
Yeah, you're in the dust.
I know. I don't know why. Queen Sugar, we saw you on that too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Look at that. That is a really cool crew, and that was a really fun show to be a part of. That was the first time that I had ever just done one episode and actually got written into another episode. That's
pretty cool. That means you did a good job.
Right? That's a nice little nod, right? You're like, wait, I got that call, like they're bringing you back. And you're like, oh, you wrote this in. That's amazing.
That was a surprisingly good show.
Yeah.
Like just going in, I was a little iffy on it, but then watching, I was like, that was really good. The writing
kept it really current. It was, I thought, just Oprah and her whole team, just looking after it. And it was, and that crew down in New Orleans, again, it's like when the show's shooting down there, that whole crew was a real family unit. It was really cool.
Yeah. Were you acting when Treme was on the air?
So, a funny story about that. My friend was on The Wire, and I happened to be at the premiere. I was actually at the closing party of that and met David Simon,
Oh,
who wrote
nice.
The Wire and then obviously did that. And cool thing was, we exchanged cards at that time. I was in New York, so I wasn't living in New Orleans. And
Okay.
New Orleans really wasn't known for television yet. I mean,
Not
they
then.
had the
Yeah.
tax credit and they had a lot of the shows, but it didn't have that boom that it kind of had in the 2010s. And so David was going down, and he was a trailblazer. And
Yeah.
so we exchanged information because he said, I'm staying at your hotel. So we actually lived there for the first season of the
Really?
hotel. Yeah, first season of the
Okay.
shooting, we
That's
lived
pretty
there.
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so yeah, we had a whole little pen pal going on during that, and different things locally that we could bring in. But I think for him, I was more known as the guy, part of the hotel. And I told him, like, if you need an actor in it,
Yeah, he's
he's
like, I also act, and I'm
right,
new,
right.
or
Yeah,
I guess he
sometimes
weren't
that
there at the
multiple
time, but
hat
I could come
thing.
home anytime.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But really, really cool guy. I mean, hats off to him. Really good
Yeah.
shows, and they brought New Orleans on the map. I think they kind of
Yeah.
blazed the whole
Well, I don't
trail.
think he's done a bad show.
Right.
Like if he
No.
does it, it's going to be awesome. And it's
Yeah.
just, and The Wire may be the best show ever. Some people would say that's the best ever. Some maybe Breaking Bad, something like that, but
Right.
it's
Right.
definitely in the discussion.
Yeah, it's definitely top three. They have it in, and I mean, I think his journalist background. I mean, he just didn't let anything go. I mean,
Yeah.
he hit it from every angle, and he
Yeah, he
really
did a
did
good
it. But
job.
yeah, so
That's a
that's
good
cool.
story though.
Yeah, it's a
I
fun
mean,
one.
if
I
you're
mean,
not going to be on the show, that's a pretty good story.
yeah, it's nice to be a little muse in the background of
Yeah.
a native New Orleans to help with the show.
Yeah, that's not terrible. So you've got your own production company. Tell me about that. How did it get started, and what was the reason behind it? Why did you start that?
Yeah, Full Armor Films. I started actually out of, I always say desperation. Funny enough, I was I was coming out of college,
Yeah.
and I'd been in theater for pretty much all my life at that point. I started real young, and did the classically trained thing. But I always had my eye on movies and making them. And in the '90s, I started teaching myself how to edit and do all the different
Yeah.
things. And when I got out of college, I started writing all the production companies in New York and all the different movies. And I don't know if something was wrong with my manila envelopes or what, but I didn't get any responses. So I started off doing extra work as any actor would do, and doing all the short films and indie projects. But I needed like work. I needed a
Yeah.
job. So I created my own production company. I was like, well, I'm writing to them. Let's just make my own. I had some friends in the PR space, and I started knocking on doors, and I became a one-man wrecking crew. I just started producing, and it was kind of that weird spot right before people realized that you could actually do everything you could do on an Apple and Final
Right.
Cut, and they had motion and stuff. And I just knew enough to be dangerous, and I taught myself editing and putting everything together. And before I knew it, I had a full business going, and we were doing all kind of commercial work for major companies, and we were just kind of faking it till we made it.
I know all about that.
Right? It was great. No one
I
knew
always
better.
talk about my brother. I couldn't even tell you what his college degree was in. I've forgotten. But whatever it was, when he got out of college, he decided he was going to be a computer tech, but he had never done anything. He didn't have any certifications in it, nothing. He knew
Love
nothing
it.
about it. But he went and interviewed on jobs and just lied. He just said, I have all this. And this
Do
was
it.
pre-internet. It wasn't easy to check that stuff. And he ended up getting a job, and then eventually went to work for the government and still works for the government. So it turned into a whole
Wow.
career for him. And I was like, yeah, he faked it till he made it. As soon as
I,
he got the job, he had to work pretty hard to catch up,
yeah, on the
but
job
he did
training.
it.
There's nothing better than the
Yeah,
pressure
he did it.
delivering. So
There's something
true.
to be said about just, faking it until,
Right.
but if you're going to fake it, you also have to be willing to put the work in to catch up, because at some point that's going to catch up with you.
Yeah, you got to deliver. I mean,
Yeah.
and that was, I knew I was onto something when, I had to charge hourly for editing, but I didn't know how to charge because I was like, I'm learning how to edit as we do it. So
Yeah.
I,
How do you know if
well,
you're charging too much or too little?
right,
You
right.
have
I'm like, well,
nothing to
does this
compare it
take,
to.
Yeah, does it take 2 hours? Does it take? And I knew I was onto something when I got called in, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna get fired. This PR company called me in, and I met with like the executive and brought me in, and they said, okay, so we're gonna need you to charge more. And I was like, wait, what? Like, we need you to match the rates of the competitors. And I was just like, a solo guy. I'd hire my friends to go do the gigs, and I was like, so like, we need you to be $200 an hour to edit. And I was like, I can do that,
I was
but I
gonna
don't.
say that would be an easy call.
Right? I can do that. I just don't know how many hours to charge you. So, but yeah, that
Well, how
was,
much undercharging were you doing?
at that time, I don't quite remember. I probably was doing something that I thought hourly made sense. I was kind of rounding up, doing maybe 50 an hour, do something like that.
Yeah, that seems pretty good to me. That seems
Yeah, pretty
reasonable.
good. And I'm honest, I would probably work through the night, editing.
Yeah.
And I remember, so it'd take me 12, 14, and I cared about it. I was like, I really was like putting out and delivering, because you got to deliver, because
Right. Well, yeah,
competing with
especially early
people.
on in a
Yeah,
company.
exactly. You don't want to mess up.
Yeah.
So whatever client that was, they brought in, they just said $200 an hour, put it on the invoices, and I went up by a couple grand every job from that point on, and I was in business the first year. So it's from there we grew into more of a post house. We got kind of I got into full production, and the whole thing was always to start something that we could create narratives out of. So all the equipment, is that classic thing. You do the commercial work, you do the work to help make your own narrative side. So we were always eyeing the ability to do what we do now, which is fully develop our own stories, movies, IP, and stuff. So
Man, it's
we kind of,
exciting.
yeah, we took the whole journey from post production all the way into really pre-production development.
I mean, it's kind of neat looking at the progression, because you just start out editing,
Yeah.
and then it turned into this. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Is Barron's Cove, is that one that your company is doing, or are you producing on the side for that one?
So we're doing. I'm taking the EP credit on that. So executive producing. So I'm working. So Former has, as our company, has developed a relationship with SSS Entertainment, and they do a lot of great indies. They just did
Yeah.
The Good Mother with Hilary Swank, and
Yeah.
they're working on something in the UK right now. And so it's a good company to build with. And I took on the executive producing role with Sean Sagandi there on Barron's Cove. Really just off of the project. The script was amazing. I'm excited for that
Yeah.
movie. It's going to be
What's
really
it
good.
about?
That one is actually a thriller. It's a father and son story, and it's
Yeah.
basically it's kind of a political thriller in a small town where a son has an accidentally is killed,
Yeah.
but something doesn't seem right, and there's this whole basically uncovering within the town of what's actually going on, and the father actually has to go and has a little bit of the mix of like the fugitive, falsely accused, but also kind of more of Taken in a way, right?
Yeah.
So Liam Neeson, but
I mean, that
it was
sounds really good. That sounds like
the
something that
script
people would
was,
like.
yeah, it's a wild ride. I mean, reading the script, I was, on the edge of my seat, and it was actually, it got done just before the strike, so it was in post now. So I'm excited for when it comes out. But the first cuts have looked really good, and a really great writer director. So I'm excited for his.
Yeah. Well, and the cast is strong.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, Garrett Hedlund he's to me, an extreme talent, and
He's
so.
really good.
Yeah, yeah. And I've worked with Chris Messina is really good. I mean, he just is a chameleon, and he's everywhere. And I got to work with him on Secrets We Keep, and
Oh,
he's a really, really, really great actor.
yeah. Yeah, he is. That's why I said just looking at the cast, I'm like, well, I would watch that based on the cast.
Right? I
It's a
know.
strong cast.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it's a ride for sure. So
Is
that's
that one
part.
out, or is it still coming
It's
out?
coming out this next year. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
exciting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
nice.
It always, it's, I'm not sure what the word is. Not disappointing, but surprising, I guess, that it takes so long from once you stop filming to getting
Mhm.
that out.
Right, right. Well,
The
it's
production side takes so long.
It does. I mean, this one I think is a little bit more too because a lot of things we have you have to wait because of the strike,
Yeah,
and
right.
just the fact that not being able to promote something. I mean, you kind of see it now. And I had some friends have some stuff come out during the strike, and it was kind of as being crossed between that actor producer, you're kind of torn because you can't promote on something, and then you don't get to show the love that you would want to show it. So.
Yeah,
uh,
and that's got to be frustrating. But I think I would have hesitated putting anything out during the strike just for that
yeah.
reason. Because even if you got the permission to kind of do it, I'm not sure how effective you would be, um, because so much was shut down. I mean, you could come to
Right.
a podcast. We
Yeah.
did a lot of work during the strike because
Right.
people were looking for ways to promote their stuff. So podcast is
Sure.
one way, but you couldn't go on like a network show or anything.
Right.
They
Right.
weren't there.
Yeah, and the interim agreements, I mean, we were in production on a show that did get an interim agreement, which we did production services for, but it was interesting because then we started hearing people were filing to get the waiver just to promote their films. I
Yeah,
think Hunger Games did that and different like ones just to say, hey, we'd love to promote this. So it was an interesting time for sure. It's nice to see everything finally
I
come to an
know. Let's hope that's the last one for a while.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
to
I know.
have two different ones the same year.
Right. It hasn't happened since I forget the year they
I'm
said.
thinking back in the '90s, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and it
Seems like
happened
we
both at the
had
same
a
time.
writer's strike in the '90s. I don't know. It's I hate them, and these were legitimate reasons to strike. I mean, they were definitely, you need to take care of your writers, you got to take care of your actors, and make sure that they can make a living with what they
Mhm.
do. And the AI stuff seems pretty cut and dried to me. You use somebody's image, you should pay for it every time you use it. That seems simple, but I know it's not. But that to me
Right.
that's a no brainer. I get why the studios would want to use it forever, but
Yep.
that's not right.
No, it's not right. It's so true. It's unfortunate. It's such a necessary, thing that we had to go through. And I think, but our industry, making a movie is just downright expensive. It's just gotten more and more expensive. And I think at every level, and it's just so hard. And so you find people sitting there trying to cut their ways and not to justify it, but then you got on the other side, you're not getting paid rightfully
Yeah,
for it's this dichotomy of situation. And I think the only way to do it is really lower the budgets and get everybody paid, at the same time and continue to make more. Because otherwise, we're just going to make less, and then there's going to be less opportunity for
that's
people,
right.
So we
Yeah,
got
yeah,
to,
it's not going to help anybody. And then,
yeah.
as fans, it hurts us too because we don't have anything to watch.
Exactly, exactly. And so
Yeah,
we got to find a sustainable way, film and make it. And that's been our big thing is just find indie filmmaking where you can make it and you can have that real smart budgeting, figuring out a way to make a
yeah,
movie the way you do. Sometimes boundaries create freedom. So
very true, very true. How does your company find its projects? Are people bringing them to you, or are you like out there actively looking for things that you're interested in?
it's a little bit of both. We have producers that are with us that in full armor and also freelance that are
Yeah,
constantly cultivating and development takes a long time. So we constantly have a slate that's
yeah,
in development of different projects. And then we, just as an actor, as a producer, my wife runs full armor as well with me. She's an actress as well. And we work with really great, talented people along the way. I mean, and people that we're fans of, or the work stands out. And so I think we all have in this industry. You find that everyone has a story. They have different projects they love. They've been working on,
yeah.
and so whenever we can find the magic in the bottle, because really, when anything gets made, it's a little miracle in a bottle, and and so we're constantly searching for that in house. And then we have projects that are brought to us. Um, and then if we can cultivate them or we can find a path for them, we do that. And we just started because we're in New Orleans. We've really become an advocate for New Orleans filmmaking. We've helped filmmakers and different people who want to get their movies made in Louisiana. We've kind of become we've started an arm that's just doing production services to help projects that need to work there locally.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's kind
been
of giving back to the community. Yeah, that's
sorry.
really good.
Yeah, it broke up. Sorry, but yeah, it's been great. It's coming at it from both sides, and everything's a journey. You know, every project has its own journey, so they're all unique how they get made. And then we've kind of been looking at television. We've started to get into that, and so we have a couple shows in development in that way. But movies have been our main thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Fog of War?
Yes, Fog of War it's another one with SSS Entertainment that we were doing. It's a thriller John Cusack film, kind of a spy
Yeah.
um, mystery
He
one.
he
Yes.
makes like he makes a surprising number of spy movies, and they're all good.
Yeah, he's just like stealth, right? He
Yeah.
just makes them in a really good, and then you just like it. I love John Cusack. I mean, he's just yeah. I mean, talk about a career. And
Right.
so that was one where that was just fun to be able to get to be a part of that and get to be an executive producer. And it's something that I've just started, looking at this last year is just with helping different projects and figuring out ways to enhance them and find a way. So both Barron Cove and Fog of War were that for us, and so we're messing around with that a little bit with Full Armor, and
Yeah. I mean,
but
that's fun. That's exciting.
yeah, it is. It's just created more opportunity to meet and work with great people, and honestly, just make more. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we're just looking to be able to do more. I think when you get in development, you have to figure out it because projects take so long, from soup to nuts. The whole thing.
Yeah.
So we were figuring out ways to collaborate with more filmmakers.
Have you ever stepped behind the camera? Have you done directing at all?
So I'm eyeing to do that actually first time this coming year. I got something I've developed. So I've kind of done because of the producing. We were just talking about this. It's funny. You say you're a creative producer, and people are always like, "Well, what exactly is that?"
Right.
Because a producer just does. But I was talking with a producer friend of mine who's done a lot of films, and there was like, there's kind of this pseudo directing role of producing where you have to be there for the director. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
right hand. You're just watching different coverage. You're just watching quality control, and you're just kind of really working there with the DP and the different keys. And so I realized coming up because of my background, because I started as a one man kind of crew and
Right.
figuring it out. I've realized, and because I have my experience all those years editing, that I was always kind of pseudo in that creative producing, pseudo directing role. So I'm kind of excited to actually cut my teeth and say, all right, well, let's go and do one where I'm co-writing it and I'll direct it.
I
And
mean, that's
so,
kind of the natural progression, I would think.
yeah, it is. It's hard. The actor in me, I think my first love, just being an actor and my background would be, my wife wrote a movie called American Reject, which we were able to do in Louisiana, and she wrote a role for me. And we always joke going back because we ended up like, being on the producing side in it. But it's one where you sit there and you go, oh, that was the one that kind of made me go, oh, I think I'd like to try directing. It wasn't ever something that I naturally would say that's something I want to do. I just ended up always falling into the acting, like having a
Yeah.
role there.
Well, yeah, but it makes sense because all the stuff you've been doing with this, I mean, it kind of you probably understand what's involved with directing, even though you haven't directed yet. Most of now there's going to be a learning curve when you first start doing it, but
Oh, for
most
sure.
of the stuff, if you're producing or you're acting in it, you're going to pick that stuff up just from working with other directors.
Right. Yeah. No, it's really true. And a lot of my friends who are great directors, getting to learn from them and figuring out the art of
Yeah.
it. And I think more so than anything, I mean, we talk about family business, right? Like, I think what I love more than anything is the families that get created around a film. It's much like theater and a show, you get this little cast unit, but I find with working with directors that I love, they really create a family atmosphere, and you feel like you're going into like it's like going camping together. You don't know what's going to happen. You get as prepared as you can, and then of course something's going to hit the fan at some place. But it's the crew that you want to be with when it all
That's
does.
right.
You know.
No,
Yeah.
that's terrific. Do you have a preference if you get down to it? Do you like doing the behind the scenes stuff, or would you prefer to act?
You know, I've realized what I've learned about myself is I love making. I love creating.
Yeah.
And I think the art of storytelling is what brings us all together. It's our new, to me, it's like, it's the modern day fireplace. You know how you can sit around a fire with, it could be people, strangers, it could be people,
Yeah.
it could be family. You can talk for hours.
That's
Like
right.
I feel like stories like that, right? Like we can sit here and talk about, Marvel Universe or comic books or movies that we've seen, and it becomes our fireplace. It becomes a place where we can start talking about story
I
and
love
connect.
that because that's true.
Yeah, yeah, that to me is so. If I get to be a part of it, I've learned that at any place, I love it. Now, I've years, I've kind of like the kid who started sports young and gets kind of like, I had been acting for almost, I mean, 15, 16 years by the time I just got out of college. So I'd been acting for so long. I was loving kind of looking at other things, but I still go back to that.
Yeah.
I love creating a character. It's funny. It's almost like individual sports versus team sports. So if
Yeah.
you're in front of the camera, it feels very individual. You get your cash, you get people you work with on the day, but all of your behind the scenes work is by yourself. And then you get the behind the camera and everything is team. And it's a complete teamwork kind of situation. So yeah, it's like picking two different sports and then but you love them both.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah. I grew up playing sports. So I get that. There's some enjoyment when it's just you, yeah,
Yeah.
you get all the credit. You also
Yeah.
get a lot of the blame if you screw it up. But
Right.
the flip side of that is it's fun to work with a team, and there's nothing better than succeeding as a team, I think.
Right, exactly. It is. There's just something that you really love. I love about the isolation of the work, and there's something gratifying. But as you say, it's really funny. Yeah, it all comes. The praise comes, and also the
That's
criticism
right.
comes. But, it's like the situation.
At
But
least with a team, you can kind of, if you screw something up, you can kind of all suffer together.
right, right, right. There's a little commiseration together. You can
Yeah.
just be like, we can
You can kind
all.
of, maybe pump each other back up a little bit. But if it's just you got to do all
Yeah,
that yourself.
that's it. It's just you standing there, larger than life, just
Yeah.
flailing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's nothing. It's like if you have to do a presentation, which is probably similar to acting. If you're up in front of everybody and it goes horribly wrong for whatever reason, I mean that's a terrible feeling because you're just on an island.
yeah. You're just on an island, and yeah, I guess public speaking, you could kind of say it's just you. I mean, it is funny with yeah, when you're on set and you got 75 crew or plus, and you're having to whatever, not literally bear it all, but like you feel like emotionally, or you got to bring the goods,
That's
right?
right.
Whatever, it's not hitting. That can be yeah, really alarming
Yeah.
personally. But I think that's why preparation is it matters so much. Like,
Yeah.
and just being able to go for it no matter what. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Cloak and Dagger because that was one where stunts were involved and all these different things. And it's like, well, let's just go. And if we just hit the fan, we just hit it, and everybody's there with you. But yeah, it's
Yeah. Well, and the plus side is if you succeed, then you've added that skill to your tool set, and it only helps you going forward.
right, exactly. That in the
Yeah.
preparation, and that's why you kind of do acting, right? You get to do multiple
Yeah.
different things. That's one of the things that I love training and learning a whole new hobby or task of something that you would have never been introduced to without this character or story that's been put in front of you.
Yeah. Hey, you've never written anything to take place in the hotel?
Well, it's funny that you say that. So my first movie I ever did actually in school when I was figuring it out is I did a short film that we shot in the basement of the hotel. You know, it was a remake of an old like black and white short called Occurrence of Owl Creek Bridge, and I did it in the hotel. And so we joked about it because of all the times that the hotel has now been in movies and whatnot. But we're now currently developing a story that takes place. The centerpiece of it will be in the hotel. It'll be a New Orleans show, another
That's
show.
awesome.
bring in, just really highlight New Orleans as the feature, because
Yeah.
New Orleans kind of feels like the city itself feels like its own character. It kind of demands a response. Like you either want to go or you've been and you want to go back, and it has that like old European vibe to it. And
Right.
so we really want to create a character out of that, out of, a hotel, but really families that have frequented throughout, the course of its history. And
Yeah.
it's so culturally rich, and explore that. So we're doing a little series right now that I'm getting excited about. Yeah,
That's
when it comes
exciting.
together. Yeah,
Yeah. And you don't have to go too far for that one.
right, exactly. Got to build it in the backyard. That's the dream, right? Just do them in your
That's the
backyard.
dream. My wife loves New Orleans because she's creative, she's artistic, and she's musical, which that's New Orleans.
Yeah, I love it. She's talented. She's
Yeah,
like my
she's
wife, right?
talented, and I've always told her, I was like, you could probably be a starving artist.
Yeah, you could go for it.
You could go for it. I mean, she's a executive for Live Nation, so her stuff is
Right.
more the hobby side. But I'm like, it's really good stuff. You could do that. Probably wouldn't make the same money, but you could do
But
it.
you could go for it. Yeah, we're probably alike. Our wives are probably they're more talented than us.
Oh, it's not even close.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even close. I
That's
always
right.
use the I have outkicked my coverage.
Right. I'll keep it covered all day. I'll admit it to it all day. My wife can sing, and it's just like, just
Yeah.
was when we were getting tapped, I did not get tapped with that gift.
Same.
She's like out there with the voice that's just like, man, I wish.
I know it's people that can sing. I'm so in awe of, but also a little jealous.
Oh, 100%. It's not like I sit there. I don't even know why I dream about, but it's like standing center stage and being able to sing. Why does that feel like that is something
Everybody has
if
that
I could do
dream.
anything. Yeah.
We
Just
all want to be that, at least for a little while.
right, right. I can't
Some
see
would say
myself
that
in
a
a
lot of
musical,
people that are doing that
but
don't actually have the ability
right.
to do it.
Exactly. I guess it's that rock star in us, you just want to be able to stand there and belt it with the best of them.
Yeah.
Probably so freeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you play any instruments?
I don't. My dad was a big guitar player. He
Yeah.
loved the jam, and I think that New Orleans background.
Yeah.
I just musically, I started to train to do it personally, like talk about private work. I started working on my voice, and voice and acting is a whole nother thing. So maybe one day I can do my own version of pull off a Bradley Cooper and sing in a
You're right.
movie. But yeah,
Well, you
it's
can always do like they do in plays or musicals sometimes. If someone's not a very good singer, they do the kind of talk singing.
oh yeah, yeah. I've done that in a movie, and I held my weight. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
That was Fireside. That was an old I encouraged everyone around the fire to join in. Let's just put it that way.
That's smart.
Right? It's just
like I'll start you off, and then you only have to hit like a good note or two, and then everybody else comes in.
yeah, it was good. It was good. We were fake drinking, so it was like I get to play the drunk element to it. Everyone will excuse a nice drunken fire.
Yeah. You can get away with that.
Yeah,
well, normally I sing better. I was tipsy.
That's tipsy. We're in the moment. Join in.
Well, Frank, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I've been looking forward to this one. I think some of the projects you're working on sound awesome. I'm excited to see them. Does Fog of War come out this coming year too?
Yeah, this coming year. Yep. So definitely look for that in Barron's Cove. And we have another one that we just posted out, which it's got one. When we talk more, we'll get more titles are coming. But yeah, definitely look at Full Armor Films and all the stuff we got coming. It's
impressive.
Yeah.
It seems like you're hitting your stride.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun couple of years, I think. Now we're on the other side of this stuff, like you said. Hopefully we can just kind of be coasting and keep making more good movies.
I mean, it's been a difficult couple of years with the pandemic, and we were stuck at home, and then you had all these strikes. It had to have been difficult on the creative side to get anything made.
I mean, we called it COVID 2.0. I mean, it definitely felt like that, And my friends who were crew and having this last job get a waiver, I mean, that was one of the most bittersweet, because we were able to give jobs and people were living off their pensions and different things. I mean, the whole reverberation of like the industry being shut down, of so many jobs that people don't even realize,
It affected so many people.
So many. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really had. So I think this is it's going to be hopefully one of those things where we finally feel like we're coming back out. Like you said, but post COVID, it's like life can resume and we can get back to our creative work.
Yeah, that's terrific. And yeah, open invitation. So anytime you have something going on, just holler. We'll get you back on.
Yeah, I loved it. This was so great. I love everything you're doing. I was an instant fan, like the podcast and
thank you so much.
Family Unit. Yeah, so many great conversations and questions that you guys tackle. So I loved it.
I really appreciate that. It's funny. When you're working to make something, you never get tired of the compliments. You know, because you always need that little validation. Okay, it's going okay, man. I'll keep going.
Yeah, right path. 100%. Yeah, it's so true. And it's like we all inspire each other. You know, seeing what you did inspires me, and you know, vice versa. And
that's where I get a lot of my ideas, is watching other people.
Yeah, it's true. That's how we do it.
Well, a couple of things, Frank, before we go. I think we hit everything you're working on, but anything else you want to mention, you know, before we go?
No, I mean, I guess if you're looking for a fun music comedy, we have American Reject. That's the one about my wife and I are both in, which is fun, and it's on Apple and Amazon. And it's about a reality TV show that's getting kicked off of the singing competition. It's a fun, feel good.
Well, I probably like that one.
Yeah, it's a fun one, and it's got.
Well, we're looking for stuff to watch, so that'll give us something to watch over the weekend.
Right, got Billy Ray Cyrus and Juvenile's in it, music wise, all original music.
That's awesome.
But it's a fun one for sure. And
I'll give you my only Billy Ray Cyrus story, and it's not a real good one, but it amuses me. When he first kind of hit it big, you know, back in the 80s, 90s with Achy Breaky Heart.
Yeah,
you know, and he came through Charleston, West Virginia on a tour, and you know, so my wife at the time was just loved that song. Everybody did. So I was like, yeah, we'll go. So we go. Well, that was the only song he really had. He played like 7 different versions of Achy Breaky Heart. And then maybe a couple other tunes. I think he had that Romeo song with Dolly Parton. And that was it. That was the concert. It lasted about an hour. I was like,
no way.
But nobody minded. They were like, yeah, just keep playing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
I mean,
it's the best song.
You know,
he's living out of
really good singer.
Car, right?
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What
he
was
living
that
out of his car, right? When he hit that.
That's it. Yeah. But really good actor, great singer. I mean, that's awesome. Well, okay. So last thing before we go, where can we?
Well, the fun thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, the delay is. It's
fine. Yeah, I know. We've got a little delay going on. That happens sometimes. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I'll wait till you finish. No, I've got one more for you.
Yeah, tell me what's the last one?
Well, I was just going to ask you where we can find you on social media.
Oh, right. Personally, Frank J. Monteleone on Instagram and Facebook, and also I guess Twitter X and then Full Armor Films is fullarmorfilms.com. It's spelled the American way, no U. And so we have Instagram and Facebook as well. And so all of our stuff's on there, and the movies and stuff we can.
Do you have to do all the posting?
We have to do it. So we have a little in-house team. We're not big, we're not robust. We're about 5 of us, and we definitely pass that buck around. Yeah. And we're trying to get better at it. I mean, honestly, content-wise, we have so much. Like, we were working on this movie, we're like, we actually need to bring in a social media. I'm sure you guys have that same problem.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've got content that we know what to do with right now. We need to get
it takes so much time.
It does. And we're working so much on all these different projects, and you're like, it's hard to stay social.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Well, thank you so much, Frank. And yeah, let's do this again at some point.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. This would be a blast to do. So let's make it as often as we can.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm in. Okay, hold on
All
one
right.
second. Frank Monteleone. Apologies for not doing a better job with his last name. I should be better than that, but if you've been watching the podcast for a while, you know I struggle with names. So I did the best I could. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too terribly. Couple of things. If you've never been to New Orleans, or if you're in New Orleans visiting, definitely check out the hotel, which is named after his family and is just beautiful. And the bar is terrific. The food's terrific. Check that out. Make sure you keep an eye out for Barron's Cove and for Fog of War. I think those will both be worth your time. Fog of War, we mentioned John Cusack. It also has Mira Sorvino, who is someone that we have been chasing for a while for the podcast. I'm such a fan of her, so we'll get her eventually. But so far, mostly due to scheduling, we've never been able to get her to be able to have her on the podcast. But I haven't given up. I think we'll have her soon. We've had some of her close friends on, so I've been kind of nudging them to help us a little bit. So maybe we'll get Mira on at some point. Frank, really talented actor. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in. It doesn't surprise me that his production company is doing so well, because you can tell he's just a hard worker. Grew up in a family that owns a hotel, so you kind of have to be a hard worker, and he's definitely continued that in all his endeavors. And I love the fact that he's giving back to New Orleans. That's terrific. He's helping the local community. Hope you enjoyed that one. I know I did. That we'll bring Frank back. He was awesome. If you're finding us for the first time, thank you. Really appreciate that. Would love to have your support. It's easy to do. It's free. Our website is meistercon.com. We've got almost 700 episodes up, audio and video, so you can check all those out there. Our YouTube page is MeisterCon Pod. Really appreciate if you could subscribe. It's free, but that really helps us out. And the last one I'll mention is IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com. Recently named us a top 100 podcast. Really big deal for a small town West Virginia father and son team. There's 15 million or so podcasts out there. To be named to a top 100 list, pretty big deal. If you go to imdb.com and look up the Two Opinionated podcast, just looking at the page helps us out. Just that traffic on the page, and that's free as well. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Until next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. just hit subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.